Take down your gate or pay $50 a day. That's what the HOA notice screamed at me, taped right across my fence like I was some criminal blocking the world's highway. 72 hours to obey, or they'd slap me with fines stacked higher than my morning coffee bills and heavier than my patience could possibly handle. The crazy part? This so-called public path is the same strip of land I've walked through for 8 straight years, and nobody cared until suddenly it's a problem. I couldn't shake the feeling someone was watching, waiting for me to trip, and the way the president pointed at maps last night, it didn't feel like neighborhood business. It felt like an ambush dressed up in community rules. Comment what you would have done if you woke up to that notice. I'm brewing coffee when I spot the CCR violation notice stuck on my entry, a 3-day threat plus potential fine of $50 per day. I check my watch, count the remaining hours in my head, then smirk loud enough for neighbors filming on their phones. $50 daily? That's just paper money theater. The notice claims I'm blocking a shortcut with my private barrier, which is rich, considering I've been walking through this same entry for 8 years without anyone complaining until now. Holly Turner rushes over from next door, worry written all over her face. "Derek, do they really have the right to fine you?" she asks, clutching her morning robe tight. I can see the panic in her eyes. She's got enough on her plate as a single mom without watching neighborhood drama unfold right outside her window. I smile and wave the paper in the air. HOA can fine violations in common areas they manage, but this strip is beyond their reach. That's the problem with their whole threat. I head inside and create a checklist on my kitchen counter: county acceptance log, subdivision plat stamp, maintenance map. These aren't random papers. They're the foundation of any legitimate public road claim. If this strip is truly public property, there should be official records everywhere. But something tells me I'm about to find a lot of empty pages instead. I grab my phone and call Clara Benson, a licensed land surveyor I worked with on insurance claims. "Clara, I need a professional opinion on a property line dispute. Can you squeeze me in this week?" She agrees to meet tomorrow morning with her transit equipment. That gives me 24 hours to dig into the county records myself. The acceptance ledger is like a grade book for public roads. To become county property, every strip needs signatures from engineers, approvals from commissioners, and formal acceptance ordinances. Without those signatures, it's just private land with fancy lines drawn on paper. I drive to the courthouse and request to see the acceptance log for my street address. The clerk pulls out a thick binder and flips to the correct section. The page for this strip shines with empty lines. A grade book where no one ever marked attendance. No signature, no stamp, not even a penciled ghost date. I stare at the space and feel a grin spreading across my face. "So, nobody ever formally accepted this as a public road?" I ask the clerk. She shakes her head and points to the maintenance map hanging on the wall behind her desk. If it's not in the ledger, the county doesn't maintain it. I take photos of the blank page and the maintenance map. The evidence is crystal clear, but I know HOA won't accept reality without a fight. CCR only controls property within the development. If this lies outside their leash, their notice carries no weight. I drive home feeling confident about my legal position, but a small knot forms in my stomach. This feels too easy. Cynthia Drake didn't become HOA president by backing down from confrontations. I park in my driveway and walk back to the iron frame where the violation notice still flutters in the afternoon breeze. That deadline suddenly feels like a countdown to something bigger than a simple property dispute. I strip the notice from the post and crush it into a ball. Then I pause, smooth it back out, and scan it again. The language feels sharp, like a blade. They're not inviting cooperation. They're cornering me with forced compliance. Holly appears at her fence line again, this time with her 8-year-old daughter trailing behind. "Did you find anything at the courthouse?" she asks. I show her the photos of the blank ledger page. "It's like a diary where nobody ever wrote a single entry," I explain. "The county never took responsibility for this strip because they never accepted it as public property." Holly's shoulders relax, but her daughter tugs on her sleeve and whispers something I can't hear. The little girl points at my barrier and asks loudly, "Why do the angry people want to tear down the nice entry?" Kids have a way of cutting straight to the heart of things. Why, indeed? I kneel down to her level and explain. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes about who owns what, but we have papers that show this entry belongs here. What I don't tell her is that some grown-ups make those mistakes on purpose. As evening settles in, I stand in my kitchen reviewing the violation notice once more. The legal language tries to sound official, but it's built on quicksand. No county acceptance means no public road. No public road means HOA authority fades. No authority means their violation notice is worth exactly as much as the paper it's printed on. But something feels wrong about this pretty piece of paper. The tone is too confident for people who should know better about property law. I set the notice on my counter and pour another cup of coffee. Tomorrow, Clara will survey the actual property lines. Tomorrow, I'll have professional documentation of exactly where my land ends and where this mysterious trail supposedly begins. But tonight, I have a feeling Cynthia Drake is planning something that goes far beyond a simple zoning dispute. The countdown has started, and I'm not the only one watching the clock. Clara arrives at 7 in the morning with her transit equipment loaded in the back of her pickup truck. I help her carry the tripod and measuring rod to the disputed area. The morning air is crisp, and I can see my breath as we set up wooden stakes to mark the corners. Holly comes outside with her camera to serve as our witness, snapping pictures as Clara works the scope. The whole process feels official and reassuring. That's when Cynthia appears, marching across the grass like she owns every blade. She's clutching a binder stuffed with papers and wearing the kind of determined expression that usually means trouble. "Excuse me, but CCR Section 12.4 covers all pathways in our development," she announces without any greeting. I pause my note-taking and look up at her. "CCR can't pave reality, Cynthia. Only the county stamps a road alive. HOA rules and county law are worlds apart." She flips open the binder and pulls out what looks like a subdivision plat. Clara halts her setup and walks over to examine the document. After a few minutes of careful study, Clara points to a specific section and calls me over. "Derek, look at this. It says 10-foot utility/drainage easement." I lean in for a closer look. The text is clear as day. Utility and drainage, not roadway or public access. Water pipes are completely different from roads, and easements aren't HOA common property. Cynthia's confident expression starts to crack around the edges. She rifles through several more pages, searching for something that will support her position. Holly takes another photo and asks the question that's been bothering me all morning. If it's really a public road, wouldn't the county maintain it? I nod and pull out my phone to show them yesterday's evidence. The acceptance log is silent, no ordinance numbers, no signatures, just absence where a road would live. Clara finishes her measurements and shows us the results on her clipboard. The property lines are exactly where they should be according to the original subdivision survey. My barrier sits completely on my own land, with several feet to spare. There's no encroachment, no boundary clash, no blocked public right-of-way. Holly lifts her phone, live streaming Cynthia's face, denying what's clear. "This survey doesn't change anything," she insists, though her voice has lost some of its earlier authority. "The HOA board voted unanimously to enforce this violation." I have to admire her persistence, even as I question her logic. "Your unanimous votes don't rewrite county law," I reply. "Your board could vote unanimously that shadows are solid walls, but believing doesn't make fantasy true." Holly exhales through a grin at my comparison, which seems to irritate Cynthia even more. She gathers her stack of papers and storms off toward the main street. Clara packs up her equipment while shaking her head. "In 20 years of surveying, I've never seen anyone argue with a transit measurement," she tells me. "The numbers don't lie, even when people want them to." We finish documenting everything, and Clara promises to have her official report ready by tomorrow afternoon. Holly walks back to her house feeling much better about the whole situation. I'm cleaning up the survey stakes when I notice something in my mailbox that wasn't there an hour ago. It's an envelope from the HOA with urgent property lien notice, stamped across the front in red letters. Inside is a draft threat to place a lien on my property for non-compliance with community standards. The document is dated today and signed by all 5 board members. The tone is more aggressive than yesterday's warning slip. They're threatening to record a lien against my deed if I don't remove the entry within the original 3-day deadline. This escalation catches me off guard. The lien threat changes everything. This is no longer a simple property dispute that can be resolved with surveys and county records. Cynthia is willing to damage my property's title to win this fight. That level of escalation suggests she has something bigger at stake than just enforcing HOA rules. I need to find out what she's really after before she follows through on her threats. Now I have proof they're wrong about the jurisdiction issue. Question is, will they let me use it? The next morning, Holly discovers that someone moved our survey stakes during the night. She pounds on my door at 6:30, still in her pajamas and furious. "Derek, you need to see this right now," she says, pointing toward the disputed area. All 4 wooden stakes have been shifted at least 3 feet from their original positions. The neat right angles Clara measured yesterday now look like a crooked game board, neighbors stopping to film the mess with raised eyebrows. I stare at the tampered evidence and feel my jaw clench. They think pushing a wooden stake erases 20 years of records? This just proves they're cornered animals clawing for control. Holly takes photos of the moved markers with her phone, documenting the obvious tampering. The wooden posts have fresh dirt around their bases, and you can still see the original holes where they were supposed to be. It's clumsy vandalism that creates more evidence against them. I call Clara immediately and explain what happened. She drives over with replacements and her gear, shaking her head in disgust. "Tampering with survey markers is a misdemeanor in this state," she tells me while re-establishing the correct lines. "Professional surveyors stake their reputation on accurate measurements. This kind of tampering isn't just wrong, it's a crime stamped in state law." We spend the morning redocumenting everything and taking extensive photographs. Clara explains that the corner record is like a treasure map showing property corners, and the corners sit squarely on my land. The original survey from when the houses were built shows clear boundaries that haven't changed in 20 years. No amount of stake moving can rewrite deeds etched in public record ink. I drive to the county building and submit a public records request for all documents related to road acceptance, maintenance agreements, and development approvals for our subdivision. The clerk stamps my request and tells me results will be available in 3 business days. "I'm not asking permission," I tell her. "Just asking for copies of what should be public truth." The county maintenance map I requested arrives by email that same afternoon. It's a digital file showing zones for road maintenance, snow removal, and emergency services. The strip in question appears as a blank white shape with no markings whatsoever. The county has never taken responsibility for maintaining this area because they never accepted it as public property. I print multiple copies of the map and compare it to Clara's survey results. Everything lines up perfectly. The blank space on the county map corresponds exactly to the utility easement shown on the subdivision plat. Water and sewer lines run through this strip, but no county maintenance crews, no public works vehicles, and certainly no official recognition as a public roadway. That evening I sit on my back porch reviewing all the evidence we've gathered. Survey reports, county records, maintenance maps, photographs of tampering, professional documentation of property lines. Every piece supports the same conclusion. This is private land with a utility easement, not a public path, just a strip HOA waves like a fake flag of power. The phone rings around 8 o'clock. It's Clara calling with additional information she discovered while researching property records. "Derek, I found something interesting about your HOA president," she says. "Cynthia Drake submitted a personal request to the county 6 months ago, asking for a policy exception to convert that strip into an amenity trail." This news hits me like a cold splash of water. Why would she want to convert private land into an HOA amenity? I ask, though I'm already forming suspicions. Clara pauses before answering. Amenity trails boost property values, especially for houses that back up to them. She might be planning to sell, or she might have other financial reasons for wanting that conversion. The pieces are starting to fit together, and the picture isn't pretty. I walk back to my entry, looking at it with completely different eyes now. This isn't about community safety or emergency access. This is about property values and personal profit. Cynthia wants to remove my barrier so she can build a case for converting private land into an HOA amenity. An amenity that would directly benefit her own property values while costing me my privacy and security. They think sabotage will stop me. They just dug their own grave. The county records arrive faster than expected, delivered in a thick manila envelope marked Public Records Response. I spread the documents across my dining room table like pieces of a puzzle, looking for the smoking gun that will end this dispute once and for all. Most of the pages are blank forms or stamped copies of no records found notices. But buried in the middle of the stack, I find something that makes my coffee cup freeze halfway to my lips. It's a faded microfilm copy of a temporary construction permit from 2001. The text "expired 2001" is barely visible, and I have to squint to read the details. Clara arrives just as I'm deciphering the document, bringing a magnifying glass from her surveying kit. We huddle over the paper like archaeologists examining ancient artifacts. This permit is like milk soured decades ago, and HOA still wants to toast champagne with it. Clara points to the official language and reads aloud. Paper alley for staging, temporary construction license, valid through December 31st, 2001. She looks up from the document with raised eyebrows. Derek, this was never intended to be a permanent road. It was just a temporary access route for construction vehicles during the original development phase. The implications hit me immediately. I lean back in my chair and let out a sharp breath, probably louder than the situation warrants. So, for 24 years, everyone has been calling this a public path based on a construction permit that expired when George W. Bush was still in his first term. Clara nods and pulls out her phone to photograph the document. Ink can sketch lanes, but can't summon bulldozers or bind the county to pave them, she confirms. This is what we call a paper street in the surveying business. The microfilm copy includes additional details that paint an even clearer picture. The original permit specified temporary access for utility installation and residential construction only. No mention of permanent public access, no provision for county maintenance, and definitely no authorization for HOA jurisdiction over the area. Just a work zone that was supposed to be restored to private property status once construction finished. I grab my laptop and search the county's online database for any acceptance ordinance that might have converted this temporary permit into permanent public access. After an hour of clicking through municipal codes, zoning changes, and road acceptance documents, I find exactly what I expected. Nothing. No acceptance ordinance means just paper street, or in simple terms, a road drawn on paper but never built or accepted by the county. The county surplus listing Clara mentioned earlier suddenly makes perfect sense. I pull up the property description online and read the key phrase aloud. Never accepted as public right-of-way. The county is literally advertising that they have no responsibility for this land. They're trying to sell it because it costs them money to maintain property they never wanted in the first place. I call the county surplus office and speak with a clerk who explains the bidding process. Sealed bids are due by 5 p.m. Friday, she tells me. Minimum bid is $500, and the highest bidder gets clear title to the property. $500 to end this dispute permanently. Cheap enough to buy silence, and expensive enough to choke Cynthia's schemes. Clara suggests we prepare a boundary line agreement with my back neighbor before I submit any bid. If you're going to own this strip, you want crystal clear boundaries with everyone who touches it, she explains. We're signing not just on paper, but right on the actual property markers to lock down exact boundaries. Smart thinking. The last thing I need is a boundary dispute with a reasonable neighbor. That afternoon, I meet with my back neighbor, a retired teacher who has lived in the subdivision longer than anyone else. He remembers when the houses were first built, and confirms that the strip was always intended to be temporary access. The boundary line agreement takes less than an hour to complete. Clara stakes the exact property lines, we all sign the paperwork, and suddenly my potential purchase has clean boundaries. I'm opening a bigger envelope called escrow, just to lock this purchase process down legally. That evening, I sit at my kitchen table with the sealed bid envelope in front of me. Inside is my offer, $2,000, 4 times the minimum bid, plus a cashier's check and all required documentation. My grip trembles like holding dynamite as I seal the envelope. One chance to end this properly. And what I just found will keep Cynthia awake tonight. Monday morning arrives with an early phone call that makes my heart race. Mr. Lawson, this is Janet from the county surplus office. Congratulations. You submitted the winning bid for parcel number 478-921. I set down my coffee cup carefully, trying to process what she just said. $2,000 bought me complete ownership of the strip Cynthia once waved, like her stage curtain of power. When can I pick up the deed? I ask, already reaching for my car keys. My grip had burned like holding a live wire while sealing that envelope Friday afternoon, and I remember whispering to myself, one chance to end this properly. The sealed bid process is like secret ballot voting. Highest bidder wins, no shouting required. Clean, simple, and completely transparent. Now that I've won, the implications are staggering. HOA can't claim jurisdiction over land they don't own or control. Game over. The timing couldn't be more perfect. Just as I'm celebrating my bid victory, Cynthia sends another escalated lien threat to my mailbox. This one is even more aggressive than the last, threatening immediate legal action if I don't comply with their compliance clock. I skim it aloud in my kitchen, then mutter under my breath. To call something a common path requires HOA to actually own or control it.